everyone. How are you? Happy Friday. Hope you all are having a fantastic day. Welcome to Facts and Two Cents. As you know, we are a channel that supports the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, Harry, Meghan, Archie, Baby Lily, Mama Doria, Pula, Guy, the chickens, Mama Mia, all of us here at Sussex Squad. So hope you are all having a fantastic day so far. Hey, welcome. So this episode we're still in the crown mode, and so I'm going to be reviewing episodes 2 and 3 today. I did episode 1 yesterday. That's all I could take in yesterday. So today I got a chance to watch episodes 2 and 3. Hope you guys had a chance to watch it as well, and you can let me know in the comments. This is a recording, so we're not doing a live today, but a recording, so you can let me know in the comments, what your take on episodes 2 and 3 was, if you have seen both. I know a lot of us are way ahead. I know Lydia was like, I'm on episode 5. Some people have already seen it all already. So, but again, I only did episodes 2 and 3 today, so I am behind. Anyways, it was just a very, very interesting. I think one of the things that stuck out for me with this episode is the things that they don't say. It's like the British are very good at, they hint at things, they talk around things. They don't really say what the thing is, you know what I mean? They are very, very they hide things a lot. And if you don't know what they're talking about, you would be literally clueless. So it just was very interesting to me in all of it, just the things that they talked about, the things that they don't talk about, or they don't mention, or they just hint at. And one of those things is just very much if you're not paying attention, or if you're not literally, if you're just listening to them and not really, watching really well, is just how Prince Philip and the Queen live very separate lives, and including separate beds. They have like an adjoining suite, and each have their own suite. And so it's very interesting. Every time they say good night, one go to their suite, and the other one would say good night, and another time, and she would go to her suite. And it's just like, wow, it's very interesting. And one of the things, again, like I was saying yesterday, like the things that stick out for me are not the big things like, oh, Charles and Diana's wedding, and pending divorce in the series, on all of that stuff. Not the big things. It's just the subtle things that they say that have been the things that have stuck out for me. One is them going into their separate bedrooms, and two, the second one was Prince Philip's conversation with Penny. Penny, who is his lady friend. Many hint that they're more than just friends. I happen to believe the same, even though there's no confirmation. They've always said they're very special friends, and how the crown plays it, at least until episode 2, is that they are indeed just special friends. And one of the things that they from that conversation he had with Penny was when he talked about people drifting apart. Kenny was kind of intimating that in her relationship, things aren't all that rosy. And he brought up the fact that, when he met Lilibet, or Queen Betty, one of the things that attracted him to her was the fact that their marriage would be forever, and it would be stability forever. And when him growing up young and having such an unstable childhood, that was amazing for him. That was just like, yes, stability for the rest of my life after such a rough childhood. But then he said, one of the things he mentioned, he said, one of the things that is not talked about, or they don't mention, or you didn't realize at the time, is that at certain point you go, you don't take into consideration, he says, that you can grow apart, that you can grow in separate directions. And and again, if you're not paying attention, you could quickly miss that. And even though this situation was talking about, Penny was talking about, he brought it back to his relationship with the Queen, that, that they've grown apart. And that was very clear. It is very clear that they were living very separate lives. At the end, when he turned, I think, 90, he moved. He quit. He resigned. I mean, he had spent his whole life, in service, quote unquote, to the crown. And when he was done, he literally moved. He moved out of there and he moved to Sandringham, where he stayed in one of the smaller homes on Sandringham Estate, and where Penny was one of his frequent visitors. And the Queen stayed in Buckingham Palace and then moved to Windsor, and she would go visit, every now and then, to visit him in Sandringham. And it wasn't until COVID a couple of years ago, when the lockdown happened, that he actually moved back to Windsor with the Queen. But other than that, they were living very, very separate lives. And I was even like, and maybe she visited him and, down low, and nobody knew. But a couple of times he was in the hospital, according to, any kind of public information, she didn't visit him. And so it was just very interesting, just to see that. And again, it's good to see it on that platform, where you can see it right before you're not reading some tabloid, newspaper about what they supposedly think. And again, a lot of the conversation is a creative license, obviously, because, who knows what goes on in people's bedrooms. But from what we have from public information, we know that they were living very, very separate lives. And of course, especially the Daily Mail, literally was throwing it out there, even when Prince Philip, even at his funeral, when, actually when he died, and leading up to his funeral, they were literally almost like, it felt like they were blackmailing the royal family to make sure that Penny was going to be there, or they were going to out them or something. It was really odd what they were doing. And now, to hear them like, oh no, the crown is fake. It's like, seriously? If it is they're basing it on what you're writing. So then, was it what you're writing fake? Which, again, it's a Daily Mail, so yeah, most likely. And so, yeah, but it was just very, very interesting. Just to see the different things that, and I guess I should put this up here. It's just very interesting for me just to see the different dynamics, and just how, again, what they talk about, and how what they hint at is just, it's really, really interesting. And again, a lot of it, is for plausible deniability. They can say, well, I never said that. I never said I was living apart from my wife. I never said that we were having issues. I never said I was spending a lot of time with Penny. I never, you know what I mean? They could say all of this stuff, and yeah, they are right here. The Prince Philip, Penny, Nuchtbull, that's her in the middle, and the Queen. And it's very interesting, their relationship, that, and the funny thing is, Prince Philip and her, they weren't secretive about their relationship. I mean, apart from the horse, they did the carriage ride things, like he taught her carriage riding and all of that stuff. I mean, that's public knowledge, so they weren't hiding it or anything. But there's it was very, very clear that they had a quote unquote special relationship. And so it's very funny with their special relationship. And one of the things I didn't realize was, like, Penny is still married. For some reason, I thought her husband has passed away or something, but it isn't. But he didn't. And so it's very, very interesting. And I'll get back to her family situation in a minute. Also, it's so funny, just an off, just just the side note, the scene with him Prince Philip going into Penny's house, it's just the creepiest looking house. I'm like, these old houses in the UK, I'm like, I don't think I'd want to spend any night in this place. I mean, it's just such a creepy place. I was like, oh my gosh. And it was very weird. There was this, like, I think it's like a black crow flying overhead. Every time they keep, referring back to this crow, it's almost like someone's dying and Prince Philip is seeing the black crow flying over. And then the same thing happened when he was like doing the interview, and then he got the call that Penny's daughter passed away, like a 5-year-old daughter. And then the same thing when he went to visit Princess Diana later. But it was just wild that they keep referring, again, creative license. But it was just very interesting. Like, he is the seer person that sees the black crow and then he knows, like, oh, something evil or something bad is going to happen. It's just very, very, very wild. Um, but so one of the things that I was very interested in too with the episode was when they introduced Penny and Prince um, Philip's like special relationship. It seemed to have started according to the episode when Penny's daughter died, like at her, after her funeral, and Prince Philip went to visit her. Um, but if you look at the picture on the left here, this is Penny when she was very, very young. And so I'm like, and there's always this thing is like that Prince Philip and her were quote unquote special friends long before her daughter. I mean, unless this is Penny when she had her daughter and she's just hanging out with her special friend, Prince Philip. But this looks like, mm, this doesn't look like that mature Penny who's, had a few kids and married. She just looks very, very young in this picture. And so I was a little bit like, okay, I don't know I mean, she looks like in her 20s here, maybe, probably younger, maybe. And so it just the Crown seemed to intimate that their relationship only started after her daughter died, but this picture on the left kind of is saying otherwise to me. Also, this is Penny later on in her life with the Queen, and again, for it definitely looks like her relationship with Prince Philip was more than just friends who go riding, doing their carriage ride competitions and just having fun. But her and the Queen seem to be okay. The Queen, and again, that's the thing with those aristos. They're used to their spouses sleeping around, and the wives just kind of have to, well, they're just sowing their wild oats, and as long as he comes home at night kind of behavior. And so she's always been around the royals. She's always, been part of their life for good reason, because I didn't know this. And I just read this today on Wikipedia, no less. And I'm going to take off a little subscribe button here. If you haven't subscribed, if you're new here, please go ahead and subscribe to our channel. Please click the notification bell so that you know when we drop a video. And so I'm going to remove it so I can read the whole thing. But I learned some things in here that I didn't realize before. One, I thought Penny's husband was dead. I had no idea her husband was still alive. And so a little bit about Penny. It says, born Penelope Meredith Mary Eastwood in London. She's the only daughter of Reginald Eastwood, 1912 to 1980, the founder of Angus Steakhouse. I was like, wait a minute, are you talking about the same Angus Steakhouse? Didn't realize that either. And Marion Hood. She had one younger brother, Peter Eastwood, who passed away, I guess, in 2013. She grew up and was educated in Switzerland. In 1976, she graduated from the London School of Economics. In terms of her marriage and children, it says on 20th October 1979, at Romsey Abbey, she married Lord Romsey, son and heir of the second Countess Mountbatten of Burma, and the seventh Lord Bradburn. The groom's second cousin, Prince Charles, Prince of Wales, later, or at least now, King Charles III, served as best man. The wedding took place 2 months after the assassination of her husband's grandfather, the first Earl of Mountbatten of Burma, by an IRA bomb. The family seat is Broadlands, Hampshire. And it's so wild. I didn't realize all the major connections that she had with the royal family. First, her husband is Lord Mountbatten, who just a few weeks ago, someone in one of those homes that he would frequent they alleged that he raped this little boy, and the little boys brought a case against him, I guess, his estate, for what was done, the abuse that was done to him in one of the homes. And so he died by an IRA bomb. And that same Lord Mountbatten, was Prince Charles's second father. I mean, he loved that man. He was just like, many assume, or thought he groomed Prince Charles. Don't know, but I know he was one of Prince Charles's mentors, and he just grieved when he passed on. But that is Penny's husband, grandfather. And also, Penny's husband is Prince Charles's second cousin. And in the first episode of The Crown, Penny and her husband were on that boat on Charles and Diana's second honeymoon, as they call it in the first episode. So, and then, Charles was also the best man at their wedding. And so it's like all tied up. And also, I just learned today from the episode is that Prince Philip is Penny's husband's godfather. So it's just like a whole big mixed up thing. So if Prince Philip was having any kind of an affair with Penny, then he would be having an affair with his godson's wife, who is his son's second cousin. I'm just like, what? It's all so confusing. Anyways, also, it says since their marriage, Lord Mountbatten has been in close contact with the British royal family. She frequently Lady Mountbatten, I'm sorry. Since her marriage, Lady Mountbatten has been in close contact with the British royal family. She frequently attends the Royal Windsor Horse Show as the guest of the royal family. She was particularly close to Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, from the 1980s when they participated in carriage driving competitions. She was one of 30 mourners at his funeral on 17th of April 2021 at St. George's Chapel in Windsor Castle. At her daughter's wedding in 2016, the Prince of Wales gave the bride away, and we've seen pictures of that. So it's very interesting. And again, Lord Mountbatten, actually, that's also Prince Philip's relative, because he's Mountbatten. So they're all mixed up, tied up into all kind of family entanglements. And so it's just very interesting. And it's funny because her daughter, one of her daughters looked like an exact replica of Prince William, including the big front teeth at the front. It is like the female version of Prince William. And it's just wild. It is very, very interesting how that family is just connected in so many ways. So it would be very interesting to see if there was anything other than just a special friendship, and she felt very like that was her, second father or something like that with Prince Philip, or indeed they had, a romantic relationship. Who knows? It seems to be more than just a quote unquote special friendship. But again, we have no confirmation on that. So it was just very, very interesting to me, that relationship. And so another thing that was very interesting to me in episode 2 was Prince Philip and Diana, their relationship. But even if before we even get to that, was Princess Diana and her relationship with Andrew Morton, who wrote the book Diana, in her own words, and then he also released, I guess, those tapes of her in her own words. And it was just really very interesting to me, again, who they left out of this episode, because I'm like, well, Prince Charles, how come Prince Charles is not in this episode? Because, when you think in terms of Princess Diana and, helping Andrew Morton write that book, the person who would look the worst is Prince Charles, yet he wasn't in this episode. And so in a way, I feel like the Crown has sort of protected him from this episode. Like, for example, we know that the gentleman, what was his name? Oh, shoot. Princess Diana's friend, and all of a sudden I forgot his name, who was playing the go-between between her and Andrew Morton, who would bring, she would do the tapes and give it to him, and he would, on his bicycle, get that to Andrew Morton and all of that stuff. I just feel like Prince Charles is the person that would have looked the worst in all of this. So when Princess Diana's friend, got knocked down from his bike and all of that stuff, which in real life he said didn't happen, that Princess Diana always feared that would happen. But in all of those things, I just felt like it's very interesting that, with all of those things, I would have expected a scene with Prince Charles or something, because he's the reason why, it's all the put downs and all the gaslighting and all of those things, why she ended up writing this book. And also, as Andrew Morton revealed, that Charles was already writing a book with Jonathan Dimbleby, and she would look horrible in that book. So this was basically an answer to that book, an answer to refute the claims that they knew was going to be in Jonathan Dimbleby's book. So for me, it was just very interesting that Prince Charles wasn't in this scene, so that you can attach him and attach his face to some of the reasons why Princess Diana felt the way she did, and how, why she just, other than I think was the ending scene, when everybody was there, like a party or something. But anyway, I mean, I guess you could say, well, they came in at the end, but there wasn't anything pivotal in that. What was very interesting also about this is also Diana, in one of the scenes, she was talking to her friend who was playing the go-between, and then realized her phone was bugged, and then having this sweet, people to come and sweep the apartment to make sure to get out any bugs or anything like that was there. And that was just, when people talk about, oh, she was paranoid, she was like, yeah, I'd be paranoid too. If I realized people are bugging my phone, I'd be seriously paranoid. That would drive me crazy. And I think that's the thing. They wanted to drive her crazy. They wanted her to, to be unstable and unsettled. And then what they do is then use that against her and brand her and label her crazy. So that was very, very interesting. And a couple of things that she talked about as she was doing the recordings for Andrew Morton is wanting to move abroad, but couldn't do it because if she did, they would take away her children, just like they did to her mother when her mother and her father were going through issues, and her mother left. They took away her children, and so that's why Diana and her siblings were raised by their father, and she was terrified if she did that. The monarchy would take her children. They had custody of Harry and Meghan, and Harry and William. And she's like, I couldn't bear that. I could not bear to lose my children. And so it was very, my heart broke for her when she was talking about that, because then, you see what Harry had to go through leaving, whether people always say like, oh, the monarchy has custody of Harry and Meghan's kids. And it's like, well, so glad that at least Archie has dual citizenship and Lily is American. So they can't just take Harry and Meghan's kids. And so I'm so happy Harry and Meghan had the freedom to leave and have to get their kids out of there, because that's another thing that Diana didn't have. The freedom to just walk away and think she was going to bring her kids with her, because they were just going to claim custody of her kids and keep her kids. So yeah, very, very, very interesting. Let's see what else I could see. Very interesting with Prince Philip, that the person who, according to the Crown, the person who alerted Prince Philip that Diana was writing a book was Penny's husband. Penny delivered a message to Prince Philip from her husband that he got word that because in the episode, Andrew Andrew Morton wanted to speak to Diana's friends. And so Diana gave him, gave her friend some contacts. And apparently Andrew Morton was snooping around to different people to, apart from them, I guess, too, to get more information to be able to create plausible deniability for Diana, because they were claiming Diana had nothing to do with this. So in an effort to do that, he was asking around to different people. And so Penny's husband told her to tell Prince Philip. And it was very interesting when Prince Philip went over there, again, seeing that bird in the air. But when he went over there, it was very interesting. The thing that he was telling her is like, he's like, you're not a novice anymore. You're not new here. You know that, one, we are not a family. It's like, we are not a family. This is not a family. This is a system. And we, what we are involved in is not a family relationship. We are in a system. All of us, including the senior royals and the cousin and all of us, we're all stuck in the system. And you can be happy in the system. You can, and it's funny that he was telling her that she can break the rules. She can figure out, she's like, you could be creative. You can break the rules. You can do anything you want to create a happiness for yourself. Just don't, as long as the only rule is in public, you have to be the dutiful wife, and you can never tell what's happening inside. You can never spill the beans about what's happening inside. On the, in private, you go cheat around if you want, be creative, have lovers, do what I mean, and I feel like Prince Philip was basically telling on himself there and telling her that, like, okay, this is what I do. I am creative. I could, within boundaries, I could have my fun as long as I played a dutiful husband in public, as long as I never tell what happens on the inside. And I think that is why they hate Diana, because Diana wouldn't play by those rules. And it's just really, really, it's just really, really, it was interesting watching him do that. And again, it's the crown, it's creative license, nobody was in there when they were having the discussion. But it was just very, very fascinating to me, because from public records and from public information and their interactions, you can deduce what happened, and from what it looked like, Prince Philip had his fun. He understood. He's like, oh, Diana, you're not new here. We're not a family. This is a system. And within that system, there are rules you play by. You have your fun, be creative. You do whatever you need to do to have your fun and your kicks, but you keep your mouth shut. You never tell, And of course, Diana was just like, well, he's like, you're not saying anything. She's like, well, I guess there's nothing to say. And he's like, well, that's the smartest thing you've ever said that has ever come out of your mouth, And it was just very, very interesting. And now you know why they wanted Diana gone. I mean, it's just like, and then that's why we have the situation with Harry and Meghan, who will not stay quiet. It's like they would not stay quiet and within the system. And again, it's just, when Prince Harry talked about, the royal family is stuck, again, creative license, but from what we can deduce from public records, this is what it is. They are really stuck. They are stuck there. They know they're stuck. It's hard to miss that they're stuck, But as long as you play by the rules, the mafia press will hide your stuff for a time until you don't give them food, and then they out you. But it was very, they can count on, as long as you can fool the public, you're okay. As long as people think you're, and that goes right back to his relationship with the Queen. I mean, even American press with the nonsense about, oh, this abiding romance for 70-year romance. I was like, stop lying. There was no romance for 70 years. Maybe for a little bit in the beginning, I'm sure they maybe have been really having a romantic relationship, and it was, great and stuff. But come on. They didn't have a 70-year relation, great love. I mean, come on. I'm sure they loved and respect each other as individuals. Yeah, but this was no great love story at all in any sense of the word. They just couldn't get divorced. And so they did, and Prince Philip just played played the game and then be the dutiful wife I'm sorry, the dutiful prince consort or whatever it was called in public. And so, but it's like an open secret. So it's just very, very interesting. Just, that relationship that he had with Diana. And it's so funny because, that's one of the things that's always talked about, that he had a great relationship with Diana, actually. That he was one of the people that she felt she could talk to. And even in the episode, again, creative license, he talked about how, he loved her, and how much he accepted her and all of those things. And in real life too, they had a great relationship. And also, it's so funny, he is the one that also had a great relationship with Meghan. And Harry, they had a very special relationship, and had a great relationship with the queen as well. So it's funny, and it could be that, like you said, maybe maybe because you're young and pretty, Prince Philip loved young pretty girls. So it's not surprising. But he, on the flip side, he did have a really good relationship with Meghan as well. And so along with the queen. But it was just very interesting, that whole episode with Prince Philip and Diana. And just I guess working within the system is what I saw. And then episode 3, again, it is the thing that has stuck out for me is what they don't say, what they don't show, what they don't say, what the crown skim over. And which is why I really, really, really was thinking I don't want to watch this, because I know they were going to do this. They were going to sort of skip over the racism, especially when it has to do with the royal family. They were going to, paint, again, when I saw the fact that the lead actor who played Prince Charles, he wanted to resign from Prince Charles's charity, and Prince Charles was like, no, 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 you're an actor, we're not going to accept it. I knew from that Prince Charles had already known that the royal family wouldn't come off looking all that bad, you know. And so this was, for me, in episode 3 was the start. And again, I haven't gotten to the others, so I don't know what else they sort of skimmed over or completely just not they not address it at all when it has to do with the royals. It started in episode 3. So this was an episode with the El Fayed family, from Egypt, and even, starting in Egypt, and how he got married and all of that stuff. And I guess it was his father telling him about the British who had obviously colonized Egypt, and how what they ran rampant in the country. And he just really hated the British, but he hated even more Egyptian people who worshiped the British people. And Mohammed Al Fayed was one of those. And his entire life is spent trying to get the British people to accept him. And this man has spent millions upon millions upon millions to try to get British society to accept him, for him to be this. He has this idea. He wants to be this British gentleman, and basically buying his way into the upper classes of the British establishment, who completely, to this day, have rejected him. And the amount of money that he has spent trying to buy his way in, trying to get in, trying to, whatever, because for him, that's important. And you see that in so many ways. But one of the things that, the story that's come out of that was his relationship with Sidney Johnson, King Edward, or King Edward who abdicated. His butler, that he, when he died, I think when he died, this butler, Well, this butler was served him and his and Wallace Simpson. And the story was about him, how they really love, I think he started with them when he was 16 years old, and then after a while they let him work full time and all of that stuff. And then I think when he died, with the royals, when you die, their staff die with them, so you basically are just sort of let go. So somehow he ended up, being there with the Fayed family when they opened the Ritz. And, the story, even before the Ritz, was Al-Fayed trying to get the Ritz. He's trying to buy the hotel, and he has all this money trying to buy the hotel. And basically, he was being discriminated against. The people didn't trust him. They didn't trust his money and all of that stuff. And he was just like, it was this really scene. I mean, the whole scene was like, it was like, you're Arab, you're whatever, we don't trust you. I mean, it was just like, it was a blatant discrimination. And he called it out that, he's like, I came here with all this money to purchase this, to restore the hotel, to all of this stuff. And yet what I get back in return is discrimination. And so he was highly offended, obviously, who wouldn't be, highly offended by the treatment of him, by, the people selling. There were, group of white people, I guess, French. And it was, it was very, very, rude and racist, really. And cut to him getting it, they changed their mind and give it to him, or at least allow him to purchase it. And cut to him the opening with, the opening night where they, opening night event, party, I guess. And Sidney Johnson is there. He was hired as one of the, the servers there. And Fayed saw him, this black man out of, I guess he was the only black person there working, and basically asked Dodim to kick him out because he was black. He didn't want him there. And I forgot the words he said, but he was basically, we just got in. I don't want these people to, let this man here to, you don't want him to be a part of this event, even though he was a server, because he didn't want, Sidney Johnson's blackness to be, I guess, put on him, so that his white guests would think less of him because he had a black servant. And so he asked Dodie to basically let him go. And it wasn't until Dodie was like, he used to work with King Edward, and that all of a sudden he changed his mind. And it was very interesting how Al-Fayed didn't take kindly when he was being discriminated against. But the moment he saw a black person, he's just like, oh, no, we can't have this black person here. We can't have him have white people, my white guests, seeing him there and, putting that on me. I can't have that. And so it was just very interesting. He just came from being upset about, discrimination, that he was being discriminated against, and then turned right around and discriminate against the black person and the black man. And it was just and it was only until he realized that, when Dodie told him about King Edward, all of a sudden, oh, let's bring him back and interview him and give him a job, And so the Crown, the thing that was very interesting for me with the Crown is that they were quite fine to point out, Mohammed El Fayed's racist behavior. They were quite fine to point that out, and rightly so. But nowhere in this episode did they point out the royal family's racism. And even when there's a situation that it's racist, that the Queen was being racist against El-Fayed, even just him, it was racist. They didn't play it off as that. They didn't make it, they didn't put it as bluntly as that. They just sort of passed it off as, oh, we just, I just don't want to sit with him. I'd rather go sit with someone else, because, they play it off as, oh, he's just buying his way in and whatever. But it was blatant racism. It wasn't. And it was really weird that, am I shocked? No. That's one of the things that when I saw Robert Lacey, was one of the people on this team. I'm like, no, they are not, because these people are all royalists. They are all royalists. They were perfectly fine to let the Arab person's racism against a black person. They were perfectly fine to point it out as, in black and white. But they refused to do that with the royal family, who, again, in that time, the queen literally, hello, she was exempt from hiring people. They were not hiring people, black and brown people in the royal family. There are so many of those things they could have pointed out. And it's not like they didn't know, because that came out, all that information came out before they started filming The Crown, this season of The Crown. So they know all this information. And it's very interesting, again, what they choose to put in. They choose to put in the Egyptian racist person and the Egyptian person's racism that they did not put in the royal family's racism. And they sort of played it off as something else. And it's just very, very, very subtle. And if you're not paying attention, you would completely miss that they did that. And coming back to just his Sydney Johnson, it was just so convenient to use that story, right? It's just the typical black servant. He was not offensive in any way. He was likable and all of that stuff. And the way they play it in a way to sort of blunt apart from the moment when El-Fayed was being racist, everything else from their relationship, how it grew, and to respect, whatever, quote unquote respect, to where he took care of him when he was dying and all of those things, it was just a very convenient way, I guess, to blunt the horror of racism of what who the royal family is and who Al-Fayed is. If that man did not work for King Edward, there is no way Al-Fayed having him back there. No way. The only reason he was there, and even if on his coffin at the end where it says a valet to the king, he hired him so that he could treat El-Fayed hired him to be his valet so he could treat him as a king, and so it just is very yeah. And it's just, for me, it was just very convenient to put in that lovable black servant who is not offensive in any way, shape, or form, just does his work and has a little comic relief and all of that stuff, and very inoffensive, to put it in there, and completely ignore the sharp bluntness of racism, other than that one scene, and it was just, a missed opportunity, and deliberate. And I think very, very deliberate to paint a brown person as racist and not the royal family as racist. And again, that's why, when I heard about Prince Charles not taking that lead actor's resignation, I'm like, they know that the crown is not going to do them dirty, other than stuff that's already out there. There's not going to be any new things where the crown do them dirty, not do them dirty, but expose their racism, especially. That is the area that I feel like, as long as don't paint us racist, we're fine. Let's see what else I got from it. Yeah. Another thing that I got, I didn't even realize how El-Fayed decided to buy Harrods. And again, his desperation to be a part of the royalty or have royal connections, or just for acceptance, for them to accept him, buying Harrods, and again, creative license, who knows? By purchasing Harrods so that the queen would notice him. The queen would accept him. And no matter what he does, there was a scene, in the beginning when him and Sydney bought these tickets to go to the horse race show that he's not even interested in horse races. But Sydney told him the man sitting next to the queen was a major investor in Harrods. What does El-Fayed do? Go and buy the entire he goes and buy Harrods for 600 and something million pounds. And then goes to this horse show that I think he was the biggest funder of that horse show thing, whatever they're doing, sitting there waiting for the queen to come. And of course, queen pulls you know, a racist behavior. And again, the crown didn't play it off as racism. It's like, oh, I don't really want to sit next to him. Oh, look at my other friend. Maybe I could go sit with her. And then ask her, I guess, private secretary to take care of him, and have Diana go over and sit with Fayed. And they had a great time. But again, they didn't play it off as they didn't play off that racist behavior as bluntly as they played El-Fayed's with Sydney Johnson's. And it was very, very interesting to see him sitting there waiting after spending all that money, to get acceptance. They still not accept him. And also very interesting that I think I saw, or I've seen a little clip of Chariots of Fire. I didn't realize that they were part of it. So I was actually really proud of Dodie, who was fighting to do something with his life, and it was very interesting that they won an Academy Award funding Chariots of Fire. And it's like, oh, that was a great thing I didn't realize before. But it was just overall for this season, for episode 3, it was just the desperation for me of watching a brown person, especially, so desperate for royal attention. And I think the thing that I know with the royal family is that they feel they're most powerful when they can look down their nose at people, when they can, have people kneel before them. That's when they are most powerful. And so that's why with him, this groveling desperation to be accepted by the royal family was so grating on every fiber of my being, because that's what makes them, that's what for them, that's what gives them the power, and it just goodness grievances. It was awful to look at. It was honestly really embarrassing. Just even, when he restored the home, I guess the home in Paris, where Wallace Simpson lived and died and whatever else. And it just, oh my goodness, watching them come in and just take out all the furniture and stuff like that, him expecting the queen and she sends her staff instead. It just was it was humiliating. It was humiliating watching that. But Fayed was like, oh, well, I get to make the queen happy, and it's just like, oh, it kind of reminded me of this, this story. Is Princess Diana. I put this there because she was the one that entertained Fayed instead of the queen, because the queen, with her racist self, did not want to sit next to him. And then that whole scenario with how the royal family treat black and brown people. It doesn't matter how much money you've given them, donated to them, you are a brown person. They are not going to respect you. And so it reminded me of this when the queen died and Prince Charles has having people go by bus, and the reaction to from the Middle East monarchs and leaders, they were like very much put off by it, because they have donated millions of dollars to Prince Charles, and with their trade deals with the UK and all of that stuff. They didn't expect to be treated in this way, to be put on bus. So I remember this article, we've read it on this podcast before. It says we wouldn't put Charles on a bus. Gulf royals balk at Queen's funeral protocol. From Oman to the east of Morocco in the west, Middle East and North Africa royalties have been closely monitoring plans for the Queen's funeral. But with days to go until the big event in modern royal history, the biggest event in modern royal history, they are unlikely to travel to London in numbers. Monarchies have sought to divine meaning from protocol arrangements and are largely underwhelmed by what they have seen. An expectation that the kings and presidents of the region would board a bus to travel to Westminster Abbey has not been received well, nor have mooted seating plans that place regional royals and presidents in pews well behind Commonwealth leaders who were important part of the Queen's orbit, but are often less influential when it comes to Britain's trade and security ties. It goes on to say there are lots hanging on this in the eyes of the GCC, said a Kuwaiti official. Everyone is reading the tea leaves. However, it is not off to a good start. If the king came to our neighborhood, we wouldn't put him on a bus. Expecting firm friends of King Charles to all gather like schoolboys on a bus to go to a funeral is not the start we were expecting. That's why some of us are staying away. And again, these people have given millions and millions of dollars to the royal family, to the UK, donating to Prince Charles's charity in an effort to, get themselves in with the royals, those relationships and whatever they've been building in hopes that they would be treated special. Because when the royals go to the Middle East countries, they are treated like the royals that they are. And what they're seeing is that when they come to King Charles's country, or the former Queen's, the late Queen's country, they are put in a bus like schoolboys. And I think for me, when I saw what Dodi with Mohammed Al Fayed, this is what it reminds me of. It doesn't matter how much money you've donated. I mean, they have, Middle East kingdoms that donated horses upon horses to the royal family when they do the Jubilee and when the Queen does her horse thingy in Windsor. A lot of those horses were gifts from Middle East kingdoms. And no matter what they have done to get in with the royals, they are always end up getting the short end of the stick, because the royals are always going to make you know that you're not part of them. You're not white. And that is the thing. And that is, to this day, Mohammed El Fayed has not learned that. To this day. I mean, with Princess Diana and Dodi passing, being killed and all of that, he just, he went off and he was, he believed that they were killed and all of that stuff. And hopefully now, with all of that happened, he is now in a place where it's like he gets it. But to see that man just throw away so much money just to get in with the royals is just like, dude, they're never going to accept you. You're not white. You're not part of them. It doesn't matter how much you give. Now, it does not matter. And it just really, really rings home with Meghan. It didn't matter how good she was. It didn't matter how great she was. It didn't matter how kind she was. It didn't matter how great she was at her engagements. It didn't matter. They would never accept her. Why? She has black blood. And this is the crux of all of it. And so for me, this whole episode 3 could just have been called racism. Because that's all I saw. I saw the racism blunt, plain and simple. Whether it's from Mohammed El Fayed to Sidney Johnson, or the royal family to Mohammed Al Fayed and the other people in there. It was just racism all around. And again, what's not said, the crown has completely glossed over and not even, said at all. And, maybe some people would pick up on it, maybe not. But it's very interesting that they did not call out the royal family on this. So I don't expect that they will do it in other episodes either, but we'll see. But anyway, so that's what I got. It was a little bit long-winded. I hope it made sense, but that's what I got from this episode. I'd love to hear your comments about what you got as well. So anyways, thank you so much for watching this video. Again, it's not a live, it's a video. Thank you to our moderators, Lydia, Church Nelly, Karen M, Julia Rock, and Cookies and Cream, who, when I post this, may or may not be on this, but thank you guys for all that you've done and all that you do to make our platform safe and make our chats fun. Also, thank you to our 2 Cents crew members who support the channel on a monthly basis. Thank you so much for your support in every single way that you support, from the kindness of your heart. So I very much appreciate it. And also thank you to our Gold Star supporters who support us via super chat, super thanks, super stickers, PayPal, Cash App, merchandise, however you support us. Thank you so much for your support. Again, I always say this is out of the kindness of your heart that you've done this and are doing it. Please feel free to join them if you'd like to support the channel. It would be mostly appreciated. Obviously, there's no obligation at all, but any support would be most greatly welcome. Thank you so much. Again, if you're new here and you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to our channel. Please click like and share this video, share it with your friends and your family as we try to build this platform and get it going, get it in a place where it's growing faster. And the more the merrier that are supporting our faves, the better. So thank you guys so much who've already supported, and all of those who are going to supporting, I thank you as well. So again, go ahead and click the notification bell, and if you haven't subscribed, and also like and share the video, and join the 2 Cents Crew, where you support us monthly. I appreciate it so much. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I look forward to catching you on the next episode. So have a great time. I love you all, and I'll see you next time. Bye.